Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Updates. We've got some breaking news out of Williamsburg, Virginia, where we finally have learned an official announcement that, yes, Big Bad Wolf is returning as a family B&M inverted roller coaster. And I've dragged up Danny Miller. You are done traveling the world. You went on a worldwide tour, trashing Raptor, I heard, right?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, thanks for getting me out of bed to do this. So, so Big Bad Wolf is kind of coming back again. It's kind of interesting because it seems like we keep getting this when Busch Gardens Williamsburg decides to do a new ride, right? We've got tributes to Big Bad Wolf, or like with Dark Coaster, we've got the tribute to Curse of Dark Castle in a very
Uh-huh.
direct way. But the other thing that I noticed here is got Verbolten, and part of that is the storm, right? Dark Coaster, you're escaping the storm, and if you do one of the names here, the Wolf Storm, which we'll get into the names in a minute, but you end up having this Oktoberfest area being very storm themed.
Very storm-based. Um,
Yeah, it's like
so
Kentucky Kingdom all over again.
I know it's like storm everything, right? It's a
Storm
that's
Chaser, Lightning Run, Thunder Run. What's going on here?
that's why I'm not a big fan of the storm name. We'll go over the names later, like you said, but there's one that I actually like that I'm going to urge people to vote for. So obviously that one will lose now. After
Yeah, pretty much.
after I
That's
throw my
what's happening.
support, it's election season, so you got to throw your support somewhere, as they say. Um,
Yes.
so uh, if you watched over the summer, you have already seen we did a construction update video from the train,
Right.
where we saw construction happening over by the old Draken fire station.
Yes.
And they've cleared out their old boneyard where they're gonna send the coaster there. It is Danny, we have a new record too. I don't know if you saw, but it will be when built, North America's, excuse me, I have to get
Oh, I saw this.
the qualifiers correct here. North America's longest inverted family coaster is the record we're capturing here,
I
with this
saw
one.
this because somebody missed the qualifiers in their post and they were getting absolutely flamed.
You got to have your qualifiers in today's day and age,
Yeah.
because once Falcon's Flight opens up, it's all really over. Or what is it called? Falcon's Flight? I don't even know.
Falcon's Flight. Yes. Yes, right.
You might as well pack it up after that one because there's really no records to be had left. So
Yeah.
this is going to be North America's longest inverted family coaster. 20, almost 2,600 feet of track, 40 whopping miles an hour. Only 42 inches to ride though, which is interesting.
Or yeah, 42 42 if you have a companion, right? Is
Yeah,
that the deal? Is that the deal
yeah,
here?
yeah.
Okay.
So 42 if you're with somebody, 48 if you're by yourself. So I have not been on one of these yet. I did not get to Tampa to ride Phoenix Rising. Um,
Yeah, me neither. Not yet.
it looks like they could be good. It's the other cool thing about this is if you look at some of the animations, and I know a lot of people were worried about, well, okay, so we're doing an homage to Big Bad Wolf. And Big Bad Wolf wasn't just a roller coaster, it was also a whole experience too, right? It was how they built it up in the station, how
Yeah.
especially nighttime rides, and then going through the village was a big part of Big Bad Wolf and what made it cool. Especially, I was just watching POVs of it, and yeah, it's not a world beater, right? Like you were on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, Big Bad Wolf to me it's a really nice ride. I rode it about a week before it closed or so. I mean, and it's been gone 15 years here, right? So, it's been a little bit since we've had that experience. Big Bad Wolf was always to me it was always a ride that really, really liked. I think it was most people I think agree that it was the best of the old school suspended coasters. The only ones that come really close are Vortex at Canada's Wonderland, and
Yeah.
I guess by extension the Bat at Kings Island, since they're clones of each other. I think Vortex is the better location over the lake and with the mountain and everything. But they both had the really big drop that goes right into a turn like Big Bad Wolf did. Big Bad Wolf had a low to the ground turn, whereas those have more of a rising turn, so it's not quite the same. Um, but those rides also have the one lift hill. Big Bad Wolf had the first half and the second half. Um, I think I'll preface with this. Big Bad Wolf was a great ride. Especially great for the time that it was built in and the time that it existed. I also feel like there's some sort of contingent of people that forget that Big Bad Wolf was not the best ride that was ever built. Not taking anything away from it. Amazing ride. Really, really loved it. I rank it very highly. It was not a top 10 roller coaster. It never really was. This is a ride, we're talking about this opened at the same time that Arrow was about to start building all the big mega loopers, right? I think 84 is when it opened. So this is right about the time that we were getting Viper at Darien Lake and then Vortex Kings Island and the triple loopers or the triple twins there, the Viper, Shockwave, and Great American Scream Machine. And then right after, and then Magnum in 89. So I mean, that's the time period that this ride was built. And I will give you that Big Bad Wolf was better than those rides for sure. So maybe when it was built, it was certainly a top of the line coaster, but into the 90s, I mean, you you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who had it as a top three in that park, right?
And
I
like you
mean,
said, like once B&M comes around, which is kind of ironic here, once B&M comes around, it kind of, puts Big Bad Wolf on the back burner. And it was
yeah,
by far the best of the Arrow suspendeds, by far.
yeah,
I'd never been on the original Bat. People talk about that all the time. Not a lot of people have been on that.
no,
But I just remember that second half after that second lift hill was really crazy, dropping down almost, a very steep drop. I don't remember. I wrote it when I was in high school, so probably around 98 or so.
okay,
I don't remember if that brake hit on the on that drop to the river.
okay,
I know if you watch the POVs now, you can definitely see the brake in there and it jerks a little bit. I kind of think it did. I kind of remember.
yeah,
I kind of think it
that
did, and I don't know if it was always there. But I'm almost
that break
positive it
had
hit
been
on
there
mine.
for a very long time.
Yeah. Um, and then it was just a really cool night experience with the village and stuff. I wrote the only time I wrote it was at night. So
Yeah,
I actually think I threw up in the station too. Um, not after the ride, but before the ride, which
yeah,
I don't know. Like on the stairs, I threw up a little bit. I don't remember. I just kept walking and yeah, I'm going on the ride. Screw this.
yeah. I mean, again, Big Bad Wolf was an amazing ride, especially for the period it was built in. But we 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 need to remember that Big Bad Wolf also was sort of a product of its time, and there's a reason it's not around anymore.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? It's okay that certain rides go away. Would I love to have Big Bad Wolf back? Sure, I'd love to have the original Big Bad Wolf back and ride it again. I Any ride I haven't ridden in 15 years, I'd probably go for another spin on.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I- I'll speak for myself here. I like Verbolten better. I'm not upset that I was never upset that Verbolten replaced Big Bad Wolf because we got something good to replace it, right? It's not the same ride. I'll get
Yeah.
that. And if you're not a Verbolten fan and whatever, maybe this new ride's gonna be for you because it's not Big Bad Wolf, but it's kind of a step closer to Big Bad Wolf. But here's the other thing. People are like, oh, family coaster to as a tribute to Big Bad Wolf. That's not right and everything. But I'm thinking, well, Big Bad Wolf was kind of a family coaster. I mean, maybe in 1984 it was more of a top of the line thrill machine, but in the last decade that it was around the 2000s, like Big Bad Wolf was the family stepper coaster of
Yeah.
that park for many years.
And it's I would probably put both of them, for Bolton and Big Bad Wolf, right by each other. I'd
Yeah, I
probably
think that's
give the
fair.
edge to Wolf a little bit over Verbolten, but not by much, not by only by a few spots, and
Mhm.
probably talking like in my somewhere in my 50s, 60s, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's a fine spot to have it.
and yeah, like you said, it's not a world beater, and I think it does have. So this whole legend that they talk about in their teaser campaign, it did grow this legend where people have since talked about Big Bad Wolf in hushed tones, and you
Mhm.
can't, with great reverence, and almost the way people talk about Volcano sometimes.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things, we talk about things like that all the time, right? These rides when they go away, they have this sort of legendary status,
Yeah,
and over
kind of like how I
time,
talk about Top Thrill 2 right now. It's the best coaster I've
yeah,
ever been on.
well, yeah, exactly. I mean, these rides as they go away and less people have ridden them that are active in the coaster community, you end up with you end up with this sort of what do I want to say? Sort of a false narrative that the ride was better than it actually was
Yeah.
at the time, right? I mean, Son of Beast. People talk about Son of Beast all the time now, right? I mean, Son of Beast. Put this Son of Beast went away the same year Big Bad Wolf did, right? Was it
Oh, wait.
2012 they tore it down? 2009 is when the
Yeah.
last big accident and it sat for like 3 years. Was it 2009
I
when
well,
it last operated?
I saw it. I did not write it. So, and I think I went to Kings Island for the first time. Diamondback was there. So Diamondback opened
So
what
that
year?
was '09.
Yeah. So, and I might
So
have gone in 2010 then.
because they tore it down in 2012 and
Yeah.
then they announced Banshee in 2013, right? Because I went to Kings
Yeah.
Island in 2012 and Son of Beast was still there,
Yeah.
standing but not operating. So I mean, that's the amount of time that has gone by, right? And people talk about Son of Beast. Now, I rode Son of Beast too. Son of Beast was awful. Son of Beast was horrible. And the people who are like, I wish Son of Beast would come back so I could ride it again. No, you don't.
You
No, you
you are
don't.
like you are like the knight right now in Monty Python, just going around stabbing people's hearts during the wedding scene. That's
Well,
what you're doing right now.
Well, and like I'm even guilty of it too, because I remember years back before we even did this on YouTube, right? I think I wrote a blog where I talked about Drachenfire and how it's like, oh, Drachenfire. I wish I could have ridden Drachenfire. And the thing is, I never rode Drachenfire, so of course I wish I would have ridden it because it's an experience I never had. I'm sure there's plenty of people who rode Drachenfire in the early '90s who were like, no, you don't.
No, you
You
don't.
don't
No, you
want to
don't.
ride that ride.
You don't want to have that.
So it's now Big Bad Wolf is not one of those. Like Big Bad Wolf is definitely a ride that you would want to ride and would ride many, many times. But the point I'm trying to make with this is we have a tendency to think that these rides that are gone were so much better
Yeah.
than they actually were because we can't have them anymore. Right? It's the
I
it's
will say the
the
caveat,
longing.
uh, the Curse of Dark Castle is far better than Dark Coaster. So
Yes, yes, yes.
I will say
I
that. I'll put that out there.
I will agree with that. Now, Dark Coaster, I thought Dark Coaster was a fun ride. No issues with it. But there, certainly wasn't nearly as many effects as the Dark Ride
Yeah.
had. I don't think there were even quite as many effects as like Verbolten has, even though
Hmm.
not all of Verbolten's effects are working 100% these days. Which we knew would happen. But Dark Coaster they did was a little bit more budget friendly, I think, in terms of the effects. The ride itself is just fine though. But I think if you were looking at Dark Castle and Dark Coaster as which was the better overall ride, I think you might lean Dark Castle. Certainly, I think they did a nice job of integrating Dark Coaster into the Dark Castle story, which was
Hmm.
nice to see. So that's why I'm kind of curious here with whatever this ride ends up being called. The renderings show that they're going to rebuild the little Bavarian village that it goes around, which would be really cool. That would be a nice throwback. I don't think anybody's saying that this ride is going to be Big Bad Wolf, what it was. It's probably not going to be better than Big Bad Wolf was. It's probably not even going to be close to what Big Bad Wolf was, and
Well,
I think
yeah,
that's
and it's
fine.
like, which is
Um,
fine, which is this park does need, like, it's hard for me to say that it needs another family coaster because having little kids now, um, and and going to this park just recently, I went there, like I said, in July, did all the stuff. Um, like you have Invader, so you already have that traditional family coaster. This one's going to fit well into that group as well. So
yeah,
you're building out that experience, which I think is cool. Having coasters that you have that shorter height requirement for, is always helpful for those step up coasters, especially in a park like that. That's such a tourist destination where
yeah,
you're bringing families and you're bringing, mixed age groups into the park where you kind of need more than one thing for that group. And I said a lot of the big parks miss this exact target.
yeah,
We just did a whole show the other day talking about how this between 36 and 48, there's not a whole lot for kids to do, where you're either stuck
no,
on the kiddie rides or you're waiting to get onto the big rides, and there's nothing in the middle because so many parks have gone to this big jump of 48. And let me tell you, having nephews and now my own kids, you're talking about maybe 3 years between the time that you hit 36 and the time that you hit 48, 3 maybe 4 years
yeah,
even, depending on how fast you grow. So it's a long time. So adding in these types of rides that you can have, 4, 5, 6 year olds ride in theory, um, at 42 inches, it's a big deal. And this one
yeah,
looks like it's going to mimic, like they said that the B&M family inverts swing a little bit, like not super lot, but they're not completely static like the traditional B&M invert trains are. There is a
right.
little hydraulic swing there. The
That's
color of the
cool.
ride looks
That's
amazing,
good.
right? The color look, it's all red, based on
Yeah,
the rings. And
yep,
for that park that has, outside of Apollo, maybe the most drab color scheme in the history of roller coasters collected. Um,
at least recently, right? I mean, because Loch Ness is yellow with the brown,
yeah.
Apollo's purple with the yellow, but now we've got Pantheon, which is earth tones, and Invaders wood and steel, and then Griffin and Alpengeist are both your whites and your light blues so that they blend in with the sky. So, Verbolten is mostly indoors, but it's gray and green. So it'll be nice to get a little bit of a different color in there that's really been missing.
Yeah, and that red just on the renderings, it just pops out completely. My one concern is I hope they go all in on the facades, and not just have
Yeah,
it
I
be
hope
like
so too.
painted, like, because that's my worry is that they're just gonna put up cardboard and paint it. And people are like, "Oh, why would they do that?" And I would just say, walk through the Pantheon station, and you'll understand why I have those concerns.
Right.
Which might be one of the worst um queue line experiences I've ever been in. Like Pantheon is just so,
Yeah, yeah, and it would really be nice if they're gonna treat it like a tribute or an homage to the Big Bad Wolf, then yeah, they should rebuild the village and they should at least make it close to what that experience is. I'm watching the video here and it looks like they're gonna rebuild that, which would be cool. We don't really get a good look at much of the layout. Is there another video that's got like an actual
it's
POV
it's
or
really hard to find stuff, and I thought I saw some stuff and then I can't find it now. But as you're looking for that, the three names that they are giving for this, that you can now vote on, are Wolf's Storm, basically STURM,
yeah,
Wolf's Rain, or Geister Wolf, which translates, I believe they said something to the effect of like Ghost Wolf,
right.
which is kind of cool. I personally like Wolf's Rain. That's my pick in this, which will mean
Okay.
that it won't win now. So, but I just think that that's, of those three, I like that one the best. I think it's the easiest to pronounce, which I think at that park with Alpengeist, you already have Geisterwolf that's too close to me. Wolf
Yeah,
Storm, like you were talking about with Dark Castle and or Dark Coaster and Verbolten, it's too much storm going on. Wolf's Rain's the only one that I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. I like it. It's very regal of sorts.
yeah. I think for me, I think for me, Wolf Storm is probably the one I'm leaning towards. Geisterwolf, if they didn't have Alpengeist, I think I might be leaning towards that one because Ghost Wolf is, I like that. It's
Why
kind of
can't we
like,
just call it Ghost Wolf? Why do we have to do it in German? Like Ghost Wolf is a cool name for a roller
yeah,
coaster.
that's what they well, Ghost Wolf would be cool because it's like the ghost of the wolf that used to be there,
Exactly.
right? Like
Right?
if Alpengeist wasn't a thing, that I think that would be the choice. Um,
I just call it Ghost Wolf. Like I don't
yeah,
understand. Like or Blood Wolf or Ghost Wolf. Blood is probably too graphic for that part.
yeah,
Um,
probably. I don't know. Yeah, I went with Wolfstorm because I think it'll tie in the other rides in that area
yeah,
a little bit, which is kind of cool. Wolf's Rain, I don't have a problem with any of them, to be honest with you. I don't dislike any of them. They did this with Invader, right? They had Invader, Battle Clash, and Viking Raider,
they did.
and
Yeah,
it was like Battle Clash seemed to be the one that everyone liked, and nobody liked Invader, and that's
yeah,
the one that won.
yeah,
But I remember, like, to me, I feel like Viking Raider was definitely the worst of the three, and I feel like there isn't one here that I'm like, oh, that's definitely my least favorite of the
yeah,
three. Like the only reason I ruled out Geisterwolf was because of Alpengeist, right?
yeah.
So, but I don't. Wolf's Rain is a little bit odd because of the like. I feel like Wolf Rain would be without the S would be better.
Oh yeah,
Uh, I feel like that pronounces a little bit better. Wolf trying to put the
Wolverine.
S in there
And
would
use it as like
be
two words almost.
yeah like Wolf Rain, Reign of the Wolf, not Reign of the Wolves
Wolf.
because like
Because it should
Wolf's
be
Rain.
wolves.
Well,
Well,
and
that's multiple.
maybe that's the translation to German, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe that's what it is. But I felt like Wolf's Rain with the S is a little bit more awkward to say, at least for me. But I don't think I don't think I'd have a problem with any of these.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to go like flood because and they're using Qualtrics for their voting as well.
Yes, they are. Wonderful platform. Yes, wonderful platform.
All of a sudden, Qualtrics is all over the place, right? We use it once, and now everyone's using it. So, um,
To be fair, I think the theme parks probably had they were probably using Qualtrics before we did.
hey, whatever. But I'm kind of excited like about this. I like the theme. Maybe they'll bring back some good merch. Usually Busch Gardens is good with merch, so um as I'm wearing
Yeah,
my
they
lock
tend to
mask.
be, right?
Yeah. Wearing my Loch
I
Ness
bought a
shirt right
bunch of
here.
stuff this year. They had a really nice they had a really nice Curse of Dark Castle shirt that I bought there. It's the really
I
nice light blue.
I did
Um
remember I saw that one, yeah.
yeah, so that one's really nice. They had a lot of good stuff there this year. Their merch game has already always been pretty decent, and I thought it was good again this year.
So it looks like I might have to book another trip to Williamsburg next year. Well, it depends on if Robert can hit 42. Um,
Oh yes, well,
so he's at 40 right now. And so he's got to grow 2 inches in the next
okay.
year. And then a lot of things start opening up to him once he hits 42, especially in the Orlando market.
Yeah,
Obviously,
Pteranodon Flyers.
well, that's a 36, so he can already get on that.
Oh, okay. Well,
The
okay.
question is, will it ever open again? Which is,
Well,
that's the
that's the
question.
big question here, isn't
That
it?
is the question of the day. Yes. Yes, it is. So, well, I think that will wrap us up here for tonight.
Yeah,
With hopefully Wolf's Rain debuting at the park next year.
and it'll actually be Wolf Storm.
Oh, okay. So we'll see what
That's
happens.
what's
Like,
gonna happen here.
and neither of us will be right. It'll be Geister Wolf, so don't worry.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
I think that's what we're gonna
Because
end up
all of a
with.
sudden everyone's on the Lake Erie Monster thing too. All of a sudden, right? Like you're following some of this crap. All of a sudden, people are talking about, oh yeah, Cedar Point's going to install Lake Erie Monster. Gentlemen, ladies, we did this. We
Okay,
were
so
we were spectacularly wrong on this many moons ago.
the apology line for Lake Erie Monster is going to
Yeah,
start here.
don't start jumping on our nonsense now because 15 or 10 years later, you guys like it all of a sudden. It's not that.
If you weren't with us on Lake Erie Monster
Yeah.
in 2015, you can't be with us on Lake Erie Monster in 2020.
Right? And we went out on the limb after the leak happened. We're like, no, that leak is fake. It's not going to be called Valraven, and this is why.
Yeah.
We went
It,
all in on that shit. Go watch that show. That's a really
and
good show.
and that was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the end for Cedar Fair because we didn't think they could possibly build a dive coaster that boring, and yet they did
Yeah,
it.
and yet they have. And yet
But
we've
hey,
seen
they're
more be
debuting
built.
two new coasters next year. It's like when King Ka barely opened in 2005, then they built El Toro the next year. See, you guys are going to get two for the price of one next year.
There you go. Well, maybe. I we didn't even talk about coasters because I thought it was so far fetched the idea that they would put in another coaster. But you don't know. We'll see what happens, right?
Isn't it ironic that that reference involved King Ka?
It did. It did. I didn't even notice that. So as always, I am Andrew Barchek from Chicago, Illinois.
Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors. And hey, maybe you won't take off the next 6 months either.
Maybe we'll be back before
You put
Christmas.
in a
But
lot of work here, so maybe we'll see you for the opening of voting in November.
well, yeah. Happy Halloween, Happy Thanksgiving, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Valentine's Day, Happy President's Day, and we'll see you for the Thrilling 32 selection show in March.
Yeah, we'll see you there.